Hello there, fellow cultists. This is DM Nell, and I am back with another episode of Shadow Talk. This is episode number 108, and I thought I would take a break from my deep dive into the core rulebook to do a little bit of news. So, a little something completely different with this episode. And just wanted to have an opportunity just to chit chat with my fellow cultists out there about the state of the shadow and where things are going, where things have been, where things are headed, and all of that goodness. Now, unless you've been under a rock for the last month, you're probably aware of all of the craziness that's been going down in the TTRPG community with the folks over at Wizards of the Coast going apeshit uh, and basically pulling a pinky in the brain to try to take over the world, TTRPG world, and not only TTRPG but also VTTRPGs and everything else that has to do with RPGs, and the community's reaction to that has not been exactly great or supportive of Wizard of the Coast. In fact, it's been um, pretty violently opposed, I guess you could say. And so it's been interesting to see the community reacting this way, and how things have been developing. Now, from a Shadow the Demon Lord and Schwalb Entertainment perspective, this is kind of a non-issue for them. The whole OGL license thing fiasco was concerning to a lot of people because it would have limited or even prevented them from being able to produce content that they relied on for or from the OGL license, which has been in place for over 20 years. And a lot of people are concerned about their favorite RPGs being impacted by this, and their favorite third-party producers being impacted by this. And the really good thing is that none of that affects Schwalb Entertainment. Well, let me rephrase that. For the most part, that doesn't affect Schwalb Entertainment. Schwalb Entertainment's primary products, Shadow the Demon Lord, Punk Apocalyptic, and the upcoming Shadow the Weird Wizard, also Godless. Those things are not affected by the OGL. Schwalb did not use the OGL to create his game. He created his game independently, and therefore, Wizards can do whatever the hell they want to with that OGL. It's not going to affect any of the Schwalb Entertainment games. Now, what it would affect is the potentially, and I'm not even sure that this would be affected, but Schwalb Entertainment had a line of PDFs that they put out on Drive-Thru RPG, which were supplements that took ideas from Shadow the Demon Lord and allowed you to play them in a 5th edition D&D game. Now, I'm not even sure that the OGL was used for that, so I'm not even sure that that would be impacted if the OGL went away. But as you know by now, the OGL is safe. In fact, pretty much the entire thing has been put into a Creative Commons license, which means that it can never be revoked, and therefore, the advance of that terrible onslaught has been stopped by the TTRPG community. And so, so that's where we're at with that whole fiasco. Schwalb Entertainment was never really affected by it, so we really needn't have worried, if that's a word or a phrase, that any of these products or future products would have been impacted by that. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. And another reason why Shadow the Demon Lord is so great, Schwalb didn't rely on the OGL. He created his game and his games, basically using concepts that didn't need to be. He didn't need permission to use the content that he created. Game rules you cannot trademark. So using a D20, anybody can create a game that uses a D20. So that is not something that Wizards of the Coast owns. So Schwab knew that. He built his game. There are similarities between his games and other games, but his game is an original creation. And so, nobody can take that away from him. These are his babies, and they will be with us forever and ever. And for that, I am super grateful. All right, so that was the first bit of news I wanted to bring out. All right, so the next thing, it has to do with releases. Now, Robert Schwab has been hard at work on Shadow of the Weird Wizard with playtesting, revising playtest documents, and trying to get that thing ready for a 2023 release, which he has already stated on in a couple of interviews. And so that means that Shadow of the Demon Lord content and punk-apocalyptic content has slowed down somewhat compared to where it has been for the last few years, and much to the dismay of those of us who consume that content voraciously. However, it doesn't mean that it's stopped completely, and I did want to highlight a few things that have come out recently that Schwab Entertainment has produced. So let me get my PDFs open here. So the first one is a monster supplement called Night Terrors, and you can find this on DriveThruRPG. This one has been written by Graham Davis. Schwab did the development and art direction, and a lot of the usual players here: editing, proofreading by Jay Spite, layout Carol Hamilton, illustrations Jack Kaiser. Beautiful illustration. Love this. Very haunting headless horseman figure with looks like a spine whip. But yeah, this is a fantastic release. It's got a bunch of new monsters, and who doesn't love new monsters added to the game? Basically, it states here, when the blood-sucking giants descended from the mountains to either side of the Arak Dell, the wise people fled, and the rest vanished, leaving their squalid hamlets empty, abandoned, and all too quiet. The last person to try to stake claim on the old marsh tower was never seen again, though his unsettled henchmen reported hearing strange flapping sounds from the upper chambers. And who could forget the headless horseman whose steed carries him riding through the fields of the low country, snatching up the fools who would dare venture out at night. The lands teem with nasty things that have grown bolder in these troubling times. Night Terrors presents a collection of nasty monsters for use in your Shadow of the Demon Lord games, all drawn from legends. These creatures possess unsettling capabilities that make them a perfect fit for horror fantasy adventures. Now, I have not used any of these monsters as of yet, so I've kind of read through this once, but this is still virgin territory for me as well. So you have the Arak, which is a difficulty 250 monster, so pretty tough. Let's see here. The Arak are a breed of solitary giants that live among the clefts and rocks of high moors and mountains. They are so fast and so stealthy that few have ever seen one clearly. What few reports there are paint them as tall and wiry with a flurry of arms. All right, so it's a size 3 frightening monster. All right, so what else we have here? Bezcost. The Bezcost is an empty human skin, as tough as leather, but bereft of muscles, bones, and organs. It sustains its unnatural existence by feeding on the blood of humans and livestock. Bezcosts haunt cursed ruins, abandoned torture chambers, ancient graveyards, and other foreboding places. They are often solitary, but may be encountered and groups of up to 10. So a Bezkos is a difficulty 50. Wow. 10 Bezkos would be difficulty 500. That would be interesting. That would be an interesting encounter. All right, so a Bezkos is a new thing. It looks like it's a horrifying undead. Then we have the Dullahan. The Dullahan is the headless horseman, basically. Rides on the back of a great black horse or from the seat of a black carriage drawn by beasts of the same. While they appear as horses, they are foul devils, bound in the form of ordinary beasts, their true nature betrayed by their fiery red eyes. If the Dullahan drives a carriage, there can be no mistaking its otherworldly nature, as it's formed from human bones, with candles lit inside skulls instead of lamps, and an awning made of grave cloth or dried human skin. So this is a difficulty 100, size 1 horrifying fairy. And then, of course, the Knuckle Lavi is a difficulty 250. This is a wicked fairy that lives in the sea but comes onto land to hunt and kill. It has the shape of a horse and rider, except that it is all just one creature. A legless human torso rises up from the creature's back, with arms long enough to reach the ground and a round wobbling head as much as 3 feet in diameter. The equine head has a single burning eye and noxious gas billows from its mouth. Its skin is transparent, revealing sinews, muscles, and organs heaving and pulsating as black blood flows between them through yellow veins. I think Schwab had an extra bit to drink when he came up with that one. Pretty spooky. So that's a difficulty 250 creature, size 3 even. And it appears to be aquatic, lives in the sea, but comes onto the land to hunt and kill. Yeah. All right, so then we have the Penangalan. Penangalan. And I think this is a creature that you'll find in a few other fantasy RPGs. Let's see here. I think the first couple paragraphs describe its background. Okay, the Penangalan hides in plain sight, preferring to infiltrate communities and hunt at night. The creature appears fully human, attractive even, kept young by unnatural magic, responsible for its corruption and creation. When hungry, it detaches its head from its body, which pulls free all of its organs from it, and wings through the air, red eyes searching for a victim. As mentioned, the Penangalan preys on children and pregnant women and slips its long prehensile tongue through gaps in walls to pierce the skin and drain all victims of its vitality. After feeding, the monster's organs and intestines appear bloated, and the Penangalan must soak them in a tub of vinegar. Well, of course, vinegar, why not? To shrink them so that they will fit back into its body. The detached head must rejoin the body by dawn. If it fails to do so, the head can never reattach, and the creature dies as sunlight touches it. Sprinkling ashes on a Penangalan's body prevents the head from reattaching, as does smearing it with garlic or sprinkling salt all over it. Okay, so that's a Penangalan, difficulty 50, horrifying, size 1/2, horrifying undead. And that's the last beastie on this supplement. So pretty cool monsters. I dig it. All right, the next release that has come out recently is another monster. And this is the supplement is called This Unwholesome Thing. It's part of the Unspeakable Things for Shadow the Demon Lord. And we have this beast right here. Okay, so this is a Schwab written and designed creature. Editing and proofreading by Jay Spite. Layout, Kara Hamilton. Illustration by Jacopo Schiavo. So this is a very cool illustration. Looks like a very muscular dragon-like creature. And let's see here. Looks like it is a creature that exists in the Patchwork Lands. Let me get to the gist of it here. This supplement reveals a monster based on a great piece of art created by Jacopo, I'm not sure I'm butchering that name, Schiavo, who created this image as his first work for Schwab Entertainment. Oh, so we got a newbie illustrator here. The illustration shows a thing made of two different creatures, with the upper part of a dragon attached to some four-legged nightmare. Who could be responsible for such an abomination? Okay, so we've got the dragon part up here, and then we've got the big quadruped nightmare down here. All right, so I'm not going to read through all this. If you want the background, you can go ahead and read through it. This actually seems to be almost a crossover with a Weird Wizard, as it's kind of alluded to this thing being a creation of the Weird Wizard, also known as the Black Magician, sometimes known as the Maker of Monsters, the Shadowed One. So yeah. This is a crossover. That's awesome. I didn't realize that. Okay, so all right, the monster itself is called a demo dragon, and it is a whopping difficulty 1000. So this thing is massive, size 4, horrifying creature, and it is very powerful. I have only unleashed difficulty 1000 monsters on my campaigns. If the players have a way of dispatching the monster without having to fight it for very long. I've not actually had a difficulty 1000 creature that my players had to that the player characters had to actually fight and defeat. Even at 10th level, a difficulty 1000 creature is going to be really tough to defeat. But here you go. You got a demo dragon, which is awesome. So that is the unwholesome thing that this supplement highlights. All right, and then the next release I wanted to highlight here is this beautiful piece of art. The release is an adventure called Anything for Love. Aww. It's a novice adventure for Shadow the Demon Lord. It is written by Graham Davis, editing and proofreading by Jay Spike, graphic design Kara Hamilton and Hal Mangold, layout Kara Hamilton, illustrations by Cagdas Demiralp. I'm butchering that, I'm sure. All right, so this is an adventure. I have not read this adventure, so I'm not really sure. Let's just read the introduction here. Terrible monsters creep in the shadows all over the world. Some, driven by very peculiar needs, have a clear modus operandi that allows those with knowledge to identify them by the aftermath of their deeds. Others are less readily identifiable, and some are not monsters at all, or not completely. Events beyond control and motives no one would condemn have led some to cross the line that separates monsters from the rest of us. A seemingly straightforward investigation leads to a horrifying conclusion, as the player characters discover that their quarry is not what they first thought. Uncovering a tragedy instead of a predator, how will they react to a foe who, but for some bad luck, could have been any one of them? While it is certainly true that evil begets evil, it is also true that when love drives us, good and evil become blurred and even irrelevant. Interesting setup or premise. So just from the looks of it here, this kind of looks like a harvester. But, it's got a scalpel here. But, just having read that, I'm not sure it is. So, like I said, I have not read this adventure. I'm not really sure what it's about, other than what we just read through. It is. We do have harvesters. So we do. It's got harvesters, and it's a sewer encounter. You got to dig that. My players fully expect sewers in every single adventure I run. It's kind of a running thing, running gag for us. Looks like we've got necromancers, and yeah. So this is a 9-page adventure. Anything but love. So picked all 3 of these up on DriveThruRPG. All right, let's move on. So the last thing I wanted to cover is a if I can see if I can find it here. I wanted to cover a not finding it. Oh, I know what's going on. Get rid of that. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to cover a an interview from Schwab Entertainment that was recently done. Recently, as in a couple days ago. Actually, January the 30th. So, N-World is a very popular website, unofficial tabletop RPG news. Producers of a version of 5th edition D&D called Level Up. And they recently did an interview with Robert Schwab. And not sure that this interview got a lot of press. I haven't seen it advertised anywhere other. I think I got that day of. I think I got notification on Twitter. I may have seen something elsewhere, but I really didn't see a whole lot of anything connecting to this interview. So I wanted to point it out. And this is a fairly short interview. I think it's like 39 minutes long, so it doesn't take a whole lot of time. And the gist of it is essentially for Shadow the Weird Wizard. So I've got some highlights that I wrote down here, but if you want, the whole detail of the interview, it's fairly short. So go on out and pick it up yourself. Oh, you know what? Dang it! I forgot another release. Okay, hold on. One more release, and then we'll get to the interview. Northern Reach, darn it. Northern Reach Part 1 is another release that has just come out a couple days ago, or maybe it was last week. I'm not really sure. Anyway, this is a setting supplement, and I love my setting supplements because I run my game in the core setting, and pull up the PDF here. Here we go. All right, so here's a PDF, and again, beautiful art, written, designed, and art direction by Robert J. Schwab, editing, proofreading by Jay Spite, graphic design and layout, Kara Hamilton, and illustration by Mirko Paganesi. All right, so this is Northern Reach Part 1. Okay, so this supplement is a long time coming. Northern Reach is basically like the first part of the campaign world that was really pushed as a starting point for many adventures. A lot of the adventures produced by Schwab Entertainment are set in the Northern Reach. So it's really, it's kind of interesting that they waited this long to produce this particular supplement. But you can see it's going to be a hefty one since we've got Part 1 suggesting at least a Part 2, if not more. Sorry about that delay there. So we have, this is a Lands and Shadow supplement, and it is a bunch of pages, 10 pages long. And as with most of these supplements, we have monsters in here. So this one features Drusilla, the Sea Witch, which is a difficulty 250 monster. It's also got Graken, Beastman Warg, which is a difficulty 100. So it talks about various places. We got a scarecrow in here as well, and a halfling militia member. So it talks about various places in the Northern Reach, and it kind of just expands on the information that's already been provided for the Northern Reach, which has been kind of scattered throughout various supplements. So this is, again, another supplement that I recommend highly if you run your campaigns in the core setting of Shadow of the Demon Lord. So I did not want to forget this release in this video. So pick that up on TTRPG also. Okay, enough of that. So back to the interview. All right, so the interview again is on the NWorld website, and I will post a link in the show notes for this video. And the interview basically talks about Schwalb Entertainment. It's got or about Shadow the Weird Wizard, and it's got the usual, where Schwalb has come from, what he's done in the first few minutes, but then it rapidly gets into the Weird Wizard, which I appreciate because I've seen plenty of Schwalb video interviews, and I already know his background, so I really don't need all that rehashed again. But I understand that a lot of people are seeing him for the first time, so they have to. That's kind of obligatory in any interview. Okay, so what does he talk about? So I got my notes here, and little fancy notes. So he talks about the game, and they kind of jump all over the place, but they talk about some of the game mechanics, how it's different from Shadow of the Demon Lord, and why this game was developed. And basically Schwalb, and this is what he has been saying all along, that this game is a family-friendly fantasy RPG. Using the same game engine as Shadow of the Demon Lord, which means that if you know how to play Shadow of the Demon Lord, you'll be able to jump into this game rather quickly. Now, is it going to be exactly the same? No. Otherwise, it would just be Shadow of the Demon Lord with a Shadow of the Weird Wizard supplement to, offset some of the changes, the tone changes. But it's its own full-fledged game that's going to be released, so it's going to have some substantial differences, which it does. So one of the first mechanical things that he highlighted is that one of the core concepts of this game is that the players are running characters that are considered heroes. Whereas in Shadow of the Demon Lord, there's no there's no telling what your characters can. Your characters can be murderers from the get-go if they choose a murderer as their profession. So the Shadow of the Demon Lord is most definitely a different animal, tone-wise. Now this one assumes that Shadow of the Weird Wizard assumes that the player characters are good guys. They're heroes. They are trying to help people. And so from that perspective, it's definitely a different, it's different tone-wise, and I think we'll see that in the mechanics of the game as well. So there's not going to be an insanity mechanic, and I'm questionable as to whether corruption is going to be in the game as well. He was kind of vague about that. And also, let me just say that state that I have not been playing I have not been using the playtest rules. So I've downloaded the playtest rules and kind of perused them, but I have not played a session with the playtest rules. So I'm really trying not to. I really want to be pleasantly surprised when the actual game is released. And I kind of want to wait for that. And so I've been resisting the urge to go in and just immerse myself in Weird Wizard based on the playtest documents, because I really want just the real game. So some of the stuff may be answered in the playtest documents differently than what I'm going through here, but I'm just going by what he said in the video. So initiative is handled a little bit differently in this game. It sounds like monsters are assumed to go first. However, the players have an ability to take the initiative, which enables them to go first, but doing so costs them something. So I'm assuming that costs them something means is going to be somewhat equivalent to the fast and slow turn in Shadow of the Demon Lord, meaning that the cost by going on a fast turn in Shadow of the Demon Lord is that you can only take a move action or an action. You cannot do both. So I assume taking the initiative has some kind of similar cost. But I'm glad that monsters go first. That's one thing about the Shadow of the Demon Lord initiative system that has kind of bit me in the butt in running some games in the past, is that, having the monsters go last really hasn't worked well with some of the encounters that I wanted to be difficult, because the players, kind of whittle the monster down before the monster even gets to do anything, which I really don't like that setup. Sometimes you just want the monster to come out hitting hard, scare the hell out of the players, and then give them an opportunity to beat up on the monster. But it sounds like that's what the Shadow of the Weird Wizard is going to be like, which I am thumbs up on that action. So what else we got here? Okay, so it sounds like there's going to be the gods are going to be present in the world, or going to be active in the world to a certain degree. So you may actually run across a god throughout the course of play. Now, to what degree this is going to be, is it going to be like the Greek pantheons where, Zeus is coming down and sleeping with your wife every other day? Not really sure. He didn't really go into a whole lot of that, but he did mention a couple of the gods that the characters may encounter. And so it sounds like, gods are definitely going to be present, whereas in Shadow of the Demon Lord, the gods, there are no gods. There are no gods. Okay, so let's see what else we have here. Oh, one of the abilities when you get into the Master Tier, player character may actually be able to transform into an avatar of their god, so that's kind of cool. He referred to this game as gray fantasy, so although he said it was family friendly, he said that there are still going to be elements in the game that are going to be, scary. Just like in D&D, he said there's nothing in the game in this game that's going to be any worse than what you would see in the Nine Hells section of the Dungeons and Dragons Monster Manual. So he calls it gray fantasy, but I think what he's basically trying to say here is that if you like the D&D, high fantasy style of game, that's pretty much what this is going to be. And if you're afraid that he's going to slip in, a lot of his, more graphic stuff that is in Shadow of the Demon Lord, I think he's purposefully trying to, not have that content in this game. However, the game engines are the same, so you could very easily port, I'm assuming you could very easily port things that you like from Shadow of the Demon Lord into this game. I'm not sure why you would do that, because you could just play Shadow of the Demon Lord, but whatever. He also stated that characters in this game, by the time they reach the Master Tier, are going to be more powerful than they are in Shadow of the Demon Lord. That intrigues me, because they can get pretty powerful in Shadow of the Demon Lord already, so I'm not really sure how much more powerful they're going to be getting in Weird Wizard, but he said there's a reason for that, because of the types of things that they'll be expected to fight in the Master Tier. He also stated that the levels in this game start at 1/2, which is interesting. I'm just wondering if that means that there's no longer going to be a 0 level, it's just going to be a 1/2 level. Not really sure of the purpose of that. Again, this stuff might be in the playtest documents, but I don't know for sure. Let me see what else he talked about. That was that note. Let's see. He said this game is a love letter to Greyhawk, which I already knew. Going back to his earliest interviews about his ideas around Shadow of the Weird Wizard, his earliest ideas, he originally wanted to call it, what did he want to call it? The four cities, or the four something or other. Anyway, he when he originally started talking about this game, he originally was planning on designing it around a city very similar to Greyhawk, where it just had a mega dungeon, and basically you go in and play through the mega dungeon. But he said that in this interview, he basically said that that's not Greyhawk has kind of influenced this, but it's not the focus of this adventure. Now, Greyhawk is obviously D&D property, so this is not Greyhawk, but his influences obviously are drawn from a lot of the early days of D&D, particularly the world of Greyhawk. The campaign is set up so that players are basically building the world as they go. So I'm not exactly sure what that means. I know that in this interview, and I think another interview I listened to, he talks about the game setting going from an existing empire and moving into what he referred to as the borderlands, which is the lands that border this old empire and these unknown lands that were ruled by the weird wizard. And so some kind of event has forced people to move from the old empire into these borderlands, and the heroes are there to help facilitate this and fight the monsters that exist in these new borderlands, in the lands of the weird wizard, and that sort of stuff, and help civilization start fresh. So it sounds like it's going to be almost kind of like a sandbox type of setting, but I don't know. We'll see. He didn't go into a whole lot of detail on it, but if that's the case, that'll be an interesting way of handling that. So he talked about some of the ancestries. We're going to have clockworks, something called cat people called sphinxes, deva, which are it sounded a lot like the the way he described it was deva are ancient people that uploaded their essence into crystals, and then they are cohabitating a human body or another ancestry's body, I guess. And so they make a pact with them. I guess that gives them the host abilities and stuff. I'm not really sure. Okay, so he talked about how campaigns can be played, and he's sticking with the short form campaign. He talked about how the adventures that he's going to be releasing for this are going to be less individual adventures, and he wants to release more campaigns, which is awesome. His campaigns are going to be 11 adventures, and he's designing them so that you can play an adventure in a 4-hour session. Now, if you have players like my players that like to dilly-dally around and not exactly power through an adventure, then a 4-hour adventure may not be enough time for you to get through or a 4-hour session may not be enough time to get through an adventure. But if you have other players that are a little bit more efficient, then you may be able to get away with it. I don't know, but at any rate, the adventures are going to be released in a adventure path type of setup, which is great and very helpful for beginning DMs or DMs that are actually coming into this game fresh from another system that lays out an entire adventure path for you, which means you don't have to cobble things together yourself. I assume that you could probably come up with your own adventures as well, but at least for the adventures that he'll be releasing, they should be in this campaign path type of setup. Let's see, what else did you talk about here? Oh, the dungeon master is referred to as the sage in this game. What else did he talk about? He reassured the people on the podcast that Demon Lord content will continue, and he's already talked about a few Demon Lord things that he is wanting to release, including an adventure path featuring the return of the Witch King. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But hopefully some of that stuff will be stretch goals in the Kickstarter for Shadow of the Weird Wizard. So one interesting thing that they ended the video on, or the interview on, was the interviewer asked Schwab to name 3 RPGs that he recommends that are not D&D and are not games that he's produced. And he named 3, which I'm not familiar with these. I'm going to have to go out on TTRPG and look them up. But the first one is called Grok. Don't know anything about it. Hell Knight, and that's Hellnight, not Knight. And then another system called Liminal. Haven't heard of any of these, so I'm actually now intrigued, and we'll be searching DriveThruRPG to see what these things are about. So yeah, there you go. That was the interview with Rob Schwalb. Again, if you want details, you want to hear from the mouth of the man himself, the Demon Lord himself, go out to the N-World website, which again I'll give you the link, and yeah, listen to it. So that is it for this video. Thanks for watching once again, and I will resume my deep dive into the Demon Lord core rulebook here shortly with the Novice Paths chapter. So let me wrap this up. Thanks for watching. Hail to the Demon Lord, and I'm out of here. How do I turn this damn thing off?